60 Minutes with Angela starts right now.
We are insensible spending. Under this presidency, there's absolutely no waste. When the president tells you, tighten your belt, he has tightened his own before he says so. There's no opulence, no waste. There's enough basic necessities, but no excesses.
Well, hello and welcome. This is 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajitomobi. Thank you for joining me on the program today. And so it's been over 4 months since he's been on the program. Today he's here for our quarterly update with Nigeria's presidency. A journalist, writer, columnist, former managing director of Nigeria's Sun newspapers, and former president of Nigerian Guild of Editors. Today he is the special advisor to Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari on media and publicity. So, join me after the break. I'm counting down 60 minutes with Femi Adesina, special advisor to the President on media and publicity. Welcome back. Welcome, Mr. Adesina. Thank you very much for finding time to come back on the program with me.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Right. I thought we should start with the launching on Thursday, the 8th of September 2006 at the State House Conference Center in Abuja, a national reorientation campaign called Change Begins With Me. That was launched by the President Muhammadu Buhari. Yes, you know, change begins with me, begins with everybody, but many others expect the change to start with Mr. President. Reducing the number of aircraft in his fleet, for instance, many people say that would be a good place to start to show us, you know, that he too is imbibing the change that he preaches.
Well, specifically on those aircraft, you know that the president has not added anything to that fleet.
That's what he inherited.
That's what he inherited. But then, even before the Change Begins With Me was launched, a presidential committee had been in place looking into the fleet,
Right.
and it's working. And quite soon, I don't just want to preempt that panel, but quite soon there will be a pronouncement on the presidential fleet.
So the president is aware of the criticisms or of the largeness of that fleet.
Well, he's aware of it because he lives in this country. He's the president, so whatever Nigerians say, he's aware. But then the criticism may not actually be what has propelled him. It is just the propriety
Of it all.
You know, the president seeks to do things that are right and proper at all times. If Nigerians say anything, of course he hears and he listens, but then he seeks to do what is right at all times.
How does he hear what we say? Does he read the newspapers? Does he watch television? We all, myself included, imagine that he is so cocooned in the villa, and that when people get there, the opulence of the villa robs them of the ability to tell him what Nigerians really want him to hear.
That actually is a misperception. It's a grave error. The president has his feet firmly planted on the ground. It's possible that when you operate in a place like the Presidential Villa, you have your head and your feet in the clouds.
Yes.
But this is a man that is so down to earth, and he has his feet firmly planted on the ground. You know the first thing he does every day when he gets to the office? He looks at the media highlights that my department will have prepared. The very first week in the Villa, he had told me that by 10 a.m. every day, he wants to have the media highlights.
What are media highlights? A rundown of all the newspapers.
Yes, of what they are saying, particularly as it affects the presidency. First thing in the morning, staff in the media department are at their desks preparing those highlights. And by 10 a.m., the president has it. And that is the first thing he goes through. The highlights, when he needs further information, he then goes to the specific paper. But the first thing he does is to go through the media highlights, whether he is at home or outside the country.
He receives it outside the country?
Outside the country, people do it from Nigeria and send by email. So every day, he has a rundown of what the media is saying about the presidency, about him, about government policies and all that. So he reads it religiously, and if necessary, then he then consults the newspaper that has been cited.
What does he say when he reads criticisms of him?
Yeah, it is said that if you don't like the heat, get out of the kitchen. But the president asked for this job, and he's doing it because he knows he has the capacity to do it. Anybody that has a thin skin to criticism should not ask for this kind of job. So he asked for it. In fact, he asked for it the fourth time before he got it. So he's doing it, not very mindful of those who criticize unnecessarily. Some criticize unnecessarily. Those are the ones I call the wailing wailers. They just like to shout. But if it is criticism that is founded, he listens. If he needs to reverse himself, he will.
Just on a lighter note, what does he think of that phrase you coined, the wailing wailers? What was his reaction to you when he heard that?
No, Mr. President knows Nigerians a lot. In fact, one of his favorite expressions is, head or tail, you never win with Nigerians. So, when you call certain things to his attention to certain things, he just laughs. He says, head or tail, you never win with Nigerians. So he has learned to just stay focused. Whatever he needs to do, he continues to do it. And there was a day, weeks ago, I visited him in the residence in the evening. And when we had finished discussing the things I took to him, I then told him, Mr. President, the times are tough economically. There's hunger in the land. The president said, yes, I'm aware. I know that there's hunger in the land, but this time shall pass. So it just shows you that he is aware of everything going on in the country, and he knows why he sought the job to make a difference in the life of Nigerians, and is committed to making that difference.
Okay, this change program that we've started, it has reminded people of war against indiscipline. In fact, some are now saying it's war against indiscipline. Why coming in through the back door? What is the vision of this change mantra? I know in his speech he had said that our citizens must realize that the change they want to see begins with them, and that personal and social reforms are not theoretic exercise. He goes on to say, if you have not seen the change in you, you cannot see it in others or even the larger society. Before you ask, where is the change they promised us? You must first ask, how far have I changed my ways? What have I done to be part of the change for the greater good of society? These are great words, great rhetoric from Mr. President. But Nigerians are a cynical lot. They're looking at it now and saying, he's throwing the change back at us. The change that they promised, we imagined it was an economic change. Now he's saying, no, it's not. It's a change that should begin with you.
It's not just an economic change, it's a holistic change. You see, you can't get economic change if you don't get attitudinal change, for instance, if you don't get a change in your mind, a change in your perception, a change in the way you do things, how will the economic change come? If it comes, it will not be long-lasting. So change is total, is complete, is holistic, and that is the essence of that campaign that has been launched. It's not a question of throwing it back at the populace. The president is just one man. It's just that he is privileged to have been elected as the #1 Nigerian.
Yeah.
So nobody can say he's throwing it back at us because you have a stake in the country. Every Nigerian is a stakeholder in the polity. If the government is pulling in one direction and you are pulling in another direction, then you are not proving to be a stakeholder in the polity.
Yes.
If you are a stakeholder, you must also pull along with the government, as long as it's for the benefit of our country. So anybody that says they are throwing the change back at us, that person is not seeing himself as an integral part of the polity called Nigeria. We must all build the polity together. And that's the essence of that change policy.
So I'll ask you the same question I'm asking everybody.
Yeah.
What are the 3 things that you think you can change about yourself that can contribute to the success of this reorientation campaign?
You know, you suddenly bumped it on me. So I need to do some quick thinking.
Yes.
I'll talk in general terms and then try to apply myself to those general things.
Yes.
One is, yes, seeing myself as a stakeholder in the polity. You know, there's a tendency to have this attitude of we against them. No, it should not be. It is us as Nigerians and our country. A lot of people see those in government as a different breed. And we are the underprivileged, we are the ones that suffer. They don't know that those in government also itch as well and they scratch as hard as themselves. They think they are a different breed. It's not true, particularly in a government like this.
Yes.
A government like this that is down to earth, a government like this that does not believe in waste and frivolities. So the first thing is change the attitude of we against them. It is about us as Nigerians and about our country. Another thing that I would like to see change is attitude to time. They talk of African time,
yes,
and then they have even devolved it further to go talk about Nigerian time. That should not be. It should not happen. We should have a consciousness about time, privately and publicly. That's one thing we have learned from the president. If the president fixes a meeting for 10 a.m. on the dot of 10, he steps into that meeting.
And no one can come in after him.
There was a day he came to the Federal Executive Council meeting 10 minutes early. It was fixed for 10,
yes,
and he came in 10 minutes to 10. And once he comes in, they lock the door. A number of ministers hadn't come in. The vice president even hadn't come in. The president knew that he had to go out again, so he had to leave in order to allow other people to come in. So I look forward to a country where we respect time. Where we respect time. Nigeria is one of the countries in which lack of time consciousness is endemic. We should change it. So it's something I would like to see change about Nigeria and change about myself, because whatever I wish to see in the country, I'm going to be a part of it.
Yes.
Of course, you asked for 3.
Yes.
I've given you 2.
Yes.
What's the third one? Of course, the morality of it all. We should see ourselves as moral beings, doing things properly.
The right thing.
The right thing. You know that the kind of country we live in, people do wrong things and they are deadpan about it. It doesn't bother them. They don't care. No, the morality of ourselves as Nigerians must also be addressed. That we do the things that are right, so that we can be proud of ourselves as Nigerians.
Now, to one of the promises made by the APC. I don't want to say it's a promise made by Mr. President, because I remember that he had actually cracked a joke about this, the 500 billion naira social welfare package that's meant to fund programs in education and employment, and especially a school feeding program. I watched Mr. President's special advisor, Mariam Uwais, at the House of Reps asking for more time to come up with a situation report on that intervention fund. What is the situation with it now, especially that we are in a recession?
One thing we need to realize about promises is that some of them don't have timelines. Some are going to be done in the life of the administration.
Right.
And it takes 4 years. We have spent about 1 year, 3 going to 4 months. So the fact that some of those promises have not been fulfilled does not mean that they will not be fulfilled in the lifetime of the administration. But about the social intervention program particularly, that 500 billion is in the budget for 2016. So that shows that it's something that is designed to start from this budget cycle. But what has happened to that budget? A few weeks back, we were told that that budget in terms of revenue was performing just to about 40%. Because it was predicated on 2.2 million barrels of oil per day. As we speak, what did we make the last month? We made 1.1 million barrels per day.
So there's a shortfall of like 1.1 million a day.
A day. And what caused it? The insurgency or the unrest in the Niger Delta. So when you have that, it makes nonsense of your projections. Absolute nonsense. We know that in the international market, the price of oil went down.
Yes.
Then you as a country, you began to underproduce. You couldn't meet your quota again. And so it makes nonsense of your financial projections. That is why that 500 billion that was to be spent on social interventions,
yes,
it may need to be scaled down.
Right.
Or it does not mean that it will not be started.
Will it be cancelled outright?
No, it will not be cancelled. It will be started, but it may not reach the extent to which it was designed to reach.
Okay.
Of course, it can always be rolled over into another budget cycle.
Okay.
Or it could be that the items that were to be done under that scheme may be reduced.
Okay, maybe they won't give them a quarter chicken now. They will give them one piece.
But we know that it will be started.
Join us again after the break.
Nice question.
Angela, that's a great question.
It's a good question.
It is difficult to respond to that question.
That is a serious question.
Angela, that is a very great question.
Great question, Angela.
You know, Angela, that's a very difficult question.
That's a great question, Angela.
Okay, that's a great question.
Angela, that's a tough one for me.
That's a good question. Good question.
I love to ask questions. I think it's what I do best. You see, I think that the fastest way to learn anything is to ask questions. The right questions. Questions that help you get to the heart of the matter.
60 Minutes with Angela. Again, answers to every question you always wanted to ask.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, it's 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajetomobi. On my hot seat today, Femi Adesina is a special advisor to Nigeria's president on media and publicity. You previously said that up to the end of 2014, Nigeria was making about $3 billion from oil per month. Now we are in the million range. We're no longer making that. Does that mean that the president's agenda depended solely on oil? Did he not have any new ideas from which we would make money?
Actually, $3.2 billion per month was what we were making up to the end of 2014. Because oil sold at $120 per barrel. When the budget was benchmarked at about $60 per barrel. So it means we were making another $60. Double of the budget benchmark. And you will ask yourself, what happened to the excess? And that is the questions Nigerians must ask. What happened to the excess? Now, to your question specifically, did the president plan only with oil? Naturally, he could only plan with oil because Nigeria, for 4 or 5 decades, had established itself as a mono economy. It's only oil. But when the president came in, he identified the need to break away from oil as a sole financier. But the gestation period for whatever he will do, we will have to pass through it. Agric is one. If you want agric to be a revenue earner for you, you need 2-3 farming seasons minimum before agric begins.
You can see anything,
yes,
any results.
Minimum 2-3 farming seasons. Then another thing that we predicated that diversification on was solid minerals. You don't just extract the minerals and there is a processing period. It also has time. Therefore, the president couldn't then have waved the magic wand that will immediately begin to yield, that we necessarily had to go through the gestation period. But one encouraging thing, I think that was in the month of July, all that oil constituted to the revenue shared in that month was less than 25 or 30%.
Where did the other money come from?
The other came from taxation. In fact, taxation was the bulk of the money that was shared that month. Federal Inland Revenue Services saved the day for that month. And then customs also contributed, and then there were also some receipts from solid minerals.
Right.
So that was very encouraging, that if Nigeria could make that much from other non-oil sources in that month, there is a silver lining in the cloud for the country.
Okay, so definitely we are going to see major policies come out, especially in the solid minerals ministry.
Definitely. Definitely. If you look at capital releases so far in the budget for the year,
yes,
you will find that agric and the solid minerals, well, is now Mines and Steel Development Ministry. That's
yes,
the new name. You will find that agric and Mines and Steel Development Ministry have received huge allocations.
Right.
That shows that the government is putting its money where its mouth is, because it has said it will diversify the economy, particularly through those two sectors.
Another quarrel that many people have had with the president was his alleged lopsidedness of his appointments. But you rationalize that not all appointments are subject to federal character, in spite of what we read in the Constitution, that federal character must always play a role when these appointments are happening. So please explain to us why you think, or why you say, that not all appointments are subject to federal character.
There are some appointments that are like the personal staff of the president. That one, the president has the sole prerogative to make those appointments.
What appointments are personal?
He has a chief of staff, he has a media advisor like myself, he has senior special assistants. For instance, the last Senate approved 15 special advisor and assistant positions for him.
Yes.
Those ones are not subject to federal character.
So you were not appointed because of federal character?
No.
You are not representing Southwest?
I just happened to come from Southwest.
You are not representing Osun State?
No, not at all. I was not appointed on the basis of where I came from. I just was appointed on the basis of the fact that, well, I had some relationship with the president. He knew me and he felt this was the person he wanted for this position, not where I came from. So there are certain positions that he can feel like that and not subject to federal character principle. There is also positions that are professional, particularly like the military, the police, and all that.
Yes.
When you have positions like that, you don't necessarily subject them to federal character. You must be sensitive to certain considerations.
Yes.
But ability,
merit,
and capacity must play a role. Definitely.
Over and above
all the primordial considerations. You can't, because of federal character, hand over the army to somebody that is not able to lead the army effectively.
Yes.
See what the Chief of Army Staff has done in consonance with his officers and men.
Yes.
About security in the country. If you had given that position to somebody else out of sentiment,
yes,
would they have done that same thing? So there are certain positions that you don't subject strictly to federal character. But then, positions like ministerial, the constitution is clear that the Federal Executive Council must be constituted with membership from every state of the federation. If any president goes contrary to that, he is already contradicting the constitution, and it's even an impeachable offense. So there are some appointments that are the prerogative of the president. It's presidential prerogative, and he can exercise it.
What about appointments into MDAs, for instance? Are they subject to federal character as well?
Yes, appointment to boards, I can say specifically. But because there are so many, there are over 600 positions in the boards, it will also not be proper for you to make those appointments, and they are skewed in favor of certain parts of the country.
Right.
When you have such large appointments, you must make sure that the brew is balanced, the mix is proper. So that's what you should normally do. But you can't claim that capable people can only be found in certain parts of the country. No.
Yes. Sure.
Every part of the country can produce somebody who is able and capable. And when you have that number of positions to fill, I'm sure every part of the country can then produce somebody. If you look at appointments that have come in recent time,
yes, they're kind of spread.
Yes, you will see that spread in it. That's why we have always told people, just be patient. The spread will come.
And one of the reasons I asked you that question was that, you know, people seem to think that the president hates people from the southeast region, for instance, because they didn't vote for him. He has it in from the south as well because they didn't vote for him. Does the president harbor any ill feeling towards those who didn't vote for him in the elections?
Do you know that even in giving portfolios in the cabinet, there are main ministers and junior ministers? Ministers of state are regarded as junior ministers. Let's look at those from the southeast. You have Dr. Ngige from Anambra.
That's a senior minister.
He's a minister. You have Dr. Kechukwu Enilama from Abia, Trade and Investment. That is a senior minister. You have Jeffrey Onyema, Foreign Affairs Minister. There are 5 eastern states. So Professor Anwuka is the junior minister for education. There is one person more. I think 4 of the 5 ministers are senior minister positions. So if he hated the southeast, he would have made them all junior ministers, and there's nothing anybody would have done about it.
Yes.
The truth is that the president is a father of the country, and a father must not show preference to any of his children. He must show that he loves and cares for them all equally if he wants peace in his home. And that's what the president is doing.
Now, what is wrong with the president addressing every Nigerian tragedy? I read you know, where you said he didn't need to respond to everyone. I thought, shouldn't it be relative to our circumstances and our own environment? You know, even if he's very busy and traveling all over the world, Nigerians still want to see him express some empathy when tragedies occur.
Yes, it is not only the president that must speak in a government. That's where you have government apparatus. You have the minister, you have the personal aides of the president. So the president is not the only one that necessarily should speak. That's what Nigerians should remember. Don't forget that in the last days of the Jonathan administration, where bombing occurred every day, and the president will speak on every bombing, it had begun to even boomerang against him. Because whenever it happened and he spoke, it got to a point that they would tell him, we don't want to hear, we want action. So you can't continue to speak on everything, particularly with the frequency that such things happen in Nigeria.
Yes.
The governor of the state is there. The minister is there. Special advisors to the president are there. And then, as a last case scenario, the president can speak when he wants to. So, Nigerians should not think it is on every event that the president must speak. Now, let's talk about the Mile 12 crisis that happened.
Yes.
Was it early this year or late last year? When that crisis happened, the governor made a broadcast. He stepped in. The issue was resolved. He set up a panel. And then I remember that it was Sunday morning. I was going to church when my phone rang and I picked it and somebody said, why hasn't the president spoken on Mile 12 crisis? And I asked him, is there a governor in Lagos? Has the governor responded to that crisis? If he has responded, and you say you want a true federation, why then must the president necessarily speak on it again?
Yeah.
So, as long as issues have been addressed and tackled, then the president does not have to willy-nilly come and speak about it again.
So even if we hear the vice president, for instance, speak on something, do we take that?
It's one government. For instance, the president was to go to Ogoni to launch the cleanup. The vice president represented him. People were saying, President, cancel the trip. I said, no, you need to know what cancellation means. He did not cancel the trip. He was represented. The presidency is one. He was to come to Lagos. The vice president represented him at the last minute. He didn't cancel the visit. He was represented. The presidency is one. So it's something we need to realize.
So that is why we see at such events that even if it's the vice president representing, all the speeches will still refer to the president.
Yes, because those will have been prepared ahead.
Okay.
So the vice president will come armed with such speech and read.
We'll go now to the United States in November 2016, later on this year. Americans will be going to the polls. I was wondering where Nigeria actually stood in this run-up to the elections. Are we with the Democratic Party's candidate Hillary Clinton, or are we with the Republican Party's candidate Donald Trump?
As a country, we don't have to be with any. When we had our elections, the Americans showed an interest, but they were not with any of the parties.
Are you sure? A lot of people thought that President Obama kind of liked President Buhari.
You may have your preference.
Yes.
But you can't show it openly. You cannot. You will be interfering in the internal affairs of that country. So, Nigerians as individuals, even the Nigerian president may have who he prefers, but that can only be within him.
So there is no official position on that.
No,
we will take anyone who comes.
Anyone who wins, Nigeria will work with.
All right, join us again after the break. So what is 60 Minutes with Angela all about? It's not an interview. I like to think it's a conversation between two people making the news, people who are in the news, and those who become the news. And the whole idea is to inform, to educate, or to clarify, as the case may be. It is an art getting people to answer the questions that everyone is thinking in their minds. And that's what we try to do on 60 Minutes with Angela. I ask all the questions that everyone's thinking about and no one wants to voice. All the questions you always wanted to ask, you get those answers on 60 Minutes with Angela. Every week on this station, 60 Minutes with Angela, getting answers to every question you always wanted to ask. Welcome back. My concluding moments now with Femi Adesina, Special Advisor to Nigeria's President on Media and Publicity. Mr. Adesina, after ye have suffered a while...
The way you called my name was ominous already. I knew you were driving at something. Okay.
You know, I read that article. For the viewers watching this, maybe you want to Google that article. It's called After Ye Have Suffered a While, written by Femi Adesina here. You know, when I saw that article published, I thought, why don't you just leave these people alone? You said, I am on a national assignment that has cut my legitimate annual income by 1/3. So when there is hunger in the land, I go hungry too. Well, almost. You know, why are you playing with people? Look, no one believes that anyone in Aso Rock Villa, the presidential villa, will go hungry. We've seen the budget normally set aside to feed the president. There is no way anyone working in the presidency will be hungry.
Well, yes, I live within the precincts of the villa.
Yes.
But I don't live within the residence. So I still procure my own food. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Whether it's done in office hours or outside it, I procure.
It's not like there's a buffet at
No,
lunch.
that's the mistake
At lunchtime,
people
and
make.
all of you go there and
That's the mistake people make. If it used to be so, not under this administration.
you bring lunch to work.
If I want to eat during lunch, I'll have to bring it. I'll have to bring it. That's what it means. The people think there is a lot of dissipation.
Yes.
No, not under this administration. If it used to happen, not now. Not now. There are kitchens where you can have some snacks, tea, and
biscuits.
and things like that if you want. But it's not as if you are gorging yourself.
Yes.
No, it doesn't happen. Not under this administration. This is a prudent administration. It will never happen.
That is shocking.
Well, that's the truth. You can investigate it. That's the truth.
All right, let's go on to your analogy. You said buy one, get four free.
Yeah.
If we have a little bit of suffering or patience, as you called it, if we invest a little bit of that, we will get a cocktail of perfect, established, strengthened, and settled. For those who don't do religion, who are neither Christian or Muslim, how do you explain that to them?
They don't do religion, but they must do reality. They say the times in Nigeria call for reality check, and everybody must do their reality check. I mentioned something in that piece. We were earning about $3 billion every month as at the end of 2014. Now we earn $500 million as a country.
Not up to 1 billion.
Not up to. I doubt, we can check the facts, I doubt if under this administration we earned $1 billion from oil. Don't forget that as soon as the government came in May 2015, oil prices plummeted. It dropped to $32 per barrel from 120. For instance, in July, all that Nigeria made from oil was 52 billion naira.
52 million.
52 billion naira was all that Nigeria made from oil. If you translate that into dollar, you know how much it is. How much do we pay as salary for federal civil servants alone? 165 billion every month.
Run that by me again. 52 billion naira now.
Naira was all we made from oil in July.
Yes.
And salaries of federal civil servants is 165 billion. And we made 52. So, how do you expect government to pay for that money? Even before Jonathan left, they had been borrowing from central bank
To pay salaries.
to say salaries. Okonjo-Iweala said it, and that's the truth. They had been borrowing to pay salaries. By the time this administration came, a minimum of 28 states were owing salaries. That was as at May 2015. 28 states were owing salaries. Now, how come that some people still expect things to be the same? You were earning $3.2 billion a month. It dropped to 500 million. You know, one of the reality checks that led to the new price regime of petrol is the fact that our earnings crashed. You recall that the president had always said that he would never remove subsidy from oil.
Yes.
Because he was people-centered. He always said when oil sold at $120 per barrel, what did the ordinary Nigerians benefit?
Gain from it.
Yes, that he would now bear the brunt of the crash in oil prices. The president was determined to continue to subsidize the price of petrol for the sake of the ordinary people. But then in April, you know how much we made? $550 million total.
From 3 billion.
From 3 billion. We made $550 million, and out of that $550 million, you know how much will be spent on subsidy? $250 million. Half. So all that the country had to use for healthcare, for education, for salaries, for security, defense was $250 million. That was when the reality struck home that we couldn't continue with that price regime. And that's why the price regime for fuel was changed. Left to this president, if oil sold at $120 per barrel or $150 as it hit even under the last administration, you will see how the ordinary people will really, really enjoy and benefit. Yeah. Now that what is on ground has come upon us, people then should be patient and cooperate and encourage the government as it works to ensure that we get back to better days. Because what if oil prices do not appreciate for the next 2-3 years?
We're in trouble.
Serious trouble. So it means we have to be serious about agriculture. We have to be serious about exploiting our solid minerals. We have to be serious about getting more people into the tax net. We have to be serious about customs duties and all that. All the other avenues of getting revenue, Nigeria has to be serious about them so that government can continue to run and the people can continue to live well. But when you begin to shout and scream and wail, Father Mbaka said something which was very, very instructive. He said, a man came into your kitchen. He packed away all your food. He went away, leaving nothing in your kitchen. Now another man comes and is restocking your kitchen, putting food back in it, and then you begin to shout on the man that is restocking your kitchen. We are hungry, we are hungry, we are dying. Who should you rather shout against? It's the man that packed away your food. People who should necessarily be patient with this administration, encourage the administration. Do you know that governments can get discouraged? Governments can get discouraged. If you listen to all that is said on social media and you read all the things that are said there, I'm sure it can discourage you. Yeah. And then it's not good for a country. They should rather encourage, they should rather support, and even pray. And eventually we'll get to where we are going.
You know, a lot of people wish that this administration would stop recalling events from the past administration. It's over a year now since President Buhari has been there. People, I don't think, want to hear that Jonathan's administration did this or that.
It's a mistake. Historians will tell you that without knowing your past, you can know your future. The past is always a key to unlock the future. And like George Santayana says, that a man that does not learn any lesson from the past is doomed to repeat those mistakes of the past. Unless we continue to remind Nigerians that this is where that administration left the country, then they won't appreciate what is on ground. I said we made $3.2 billion a month. Where is the savings? Some countries, oil producing, have foreign reserve in excess of $700 billion. How much did that administration leave? About $29-30 billion in foreign reserve.
Listening to you, it sounds so sad. But listening to those you call the whalers, I don't want to use the word whalers, they would say, look, under Jonathan, things seemed to be okay. It wasn't this hard.
Because how much did oil sell for? It's a question they should ask themselves. It sold for $120 per barrel. And the very month this administration came, oil crashed to $32 per barrel. So how can things be the same? How can things be the same? Well, if they say under Jonathan things seemed okay, how much did oil sell for? That's what they should ask themselves. And how much is it selling for?
For now. And when you say that only the minority complain of hardship, I wish you had qualified that by saying that only the minority complain publicly. A lot of people are complaining about the hardship, but they're not necessarily...
You needed to ask me whether that was exactly what I said. That wasn't what I said.
You didn't use those words?
No! Because it was an interview I gave the Ray Power, and when I complained to them, they replayed that interview. But those who went on social media to twist what I said didn't listen again. What did I say? I said despite the hardship in the land, majority of Nigerians are still with the president. That was what I said. Despite the hardship, majority of Nigerians are with the president and they are willing to be patient for things to turn around. That was what I said.
Right.
Somebody then went on social media to say, I said, only a minority is hungry in Nigeria.
Yes.
And they began to wail about that. Of course, Ray Power repeated that thing. What I said was correctly put, but they didn't want to listen again. And that's some of the mischief.
It served their purpose at that time.
It served their purpose at that time.
But you've also said things will turn in Nigeria and it will be for our good.
Yes.
As sure as day follows the night, better things will come and will not delay.
Yes, I stand by it. You see, one of the most important things to do in Nigeria is to cut thievery,
Yes.
which this government is working at. When your treasury is safe, a lot can get done. Even despite the fall in oil prices.
Yes.
When you cut roguery, a lot of things can get
But
done.
cutting that roguery and that thievery, isn't it creating enemies for the president among the elites?
The president must do what he must do. If he wanted to please the elites, then he needn't have aspired for that position. Making a difference in Nigeria will mean you take tough decisions. And knowing the president, he has the capacity to take tough decisions. And he's taking them.
And I can't let you go without talking about Mark Zuckerberg and his visit to Nigeria. Finally meeting the president and wearing a suit. Many people thought he didn't own a suit. But how does a recognized billionaire like Mark Zuckerberg get a visa from the Nigerian embassy in America or abroad and comes into Nigeria and the presidency doesn't know about it, and he didn't get to see the president until after he had allegedly gone to Kenya, and then, maybe the presidency kicked into gear and pleaded with him to please come back, and so that they could have the photo opportunity, to justify.
That's not correct. That must have been a fib given by the whalers again.
Yes.
Zuckerberg was coming to the country.
Did the presidency know about it?
A private visit. He was coming on a private visit, but the presidency had been told he would be around, and he had been scheduled to see the president on Friday, which was the last day of his visit.
Yes.
Because there was also this program called ASO Villa Demo Day, which is an innovation to host some youths who had done some innovative things and all that.
Yes.
So his visit was timed to coincide with that one. Now, on either Wednesday night or Thursday morning, he flew to Nairobi.
Yes.
He has a private jet. He could do that. Yes.
So when he was going to Kenya, he already had the appointment.
He already had the appointment.
With the president.
With the president. He already had the appointment 12 o'clock Friday. So he flew to Nairobi Wednesday night, came back to Nigeria Thursday night. His appointment had already been fixed almost a week earlier. So if anybody tells you anything else, it's pure mischief. The Nigerian presidency does not work that way, particularly this presidency.
Yeah.
You would then be hawking or shopping for people to come and validate you. No, not this presidency.
And the president's words during that meeting, Zuckerberg saw something in us that we don't see in ourselves, the spirit of entrepreneurship and things like that. What is this president doing to endear that spirit, to encourage our young people who have this entrepreneurship spirit?
What a government does is to create an enabling environment. And all that the president is doing is to ensure that that enabling environment is in place, so that the abilities, innate abilities of Nigerians, particularly young people, can come to the fore and they can use it. He will not do it to individuals. Rather, he should just create an environment which will assist those individuals to thrive. And that's what the president is working towards.
All in all, you're telling us that there is no opulence in Aso Villa, there is no enjoyment.
Please, I'm giving you a rain check. The next time you're in Abuja,
Yes.
come over. Come over to the...
There's no enjoyment, there's no food. I mean, food, lunch.
I have given you an invitation. Come. when you're in Abuja, just give me a call and you're in Abuja. I will arrange security clearance for you. You come to the villa.
I'm saying that you took a pay cut. We all assume that even though you all have salaries in that presidency, there is a fund, an unlimited fund from which you all benefit. Oh, I'm going for a burial ceremony. Oh, you know, my driver had a baby. None of that?
Not with this president. Not at all. Let me tell you a story. Last year, the sum of 400 million naira was voted to buy new cars for the president. And when the president saw it, he struck it out. He said those cars in the president's fleet can serve for the next 10 years. He removed that 400 million naira. Another president would have taken it. But it shows you how thrifty this president is.
Yes. So, we're in the Salah celebration now. Are you saying there's no hamper?
Nothing like that. Not
going out to...
When the president tells you that cost-cutting measures are in place, they are in place.
So we're in austerity now.
We are in sensible spending. Sensible spending. Under this presidency, there's absolutely no waste. When the president tells you, tighten your belt, he has tightened his own before he said so. There's no opulence, no waste. There's enough basic necessities, but no excesses. Not at all.
Thank you very much, Mr. ADESINA, for finding time to come on the program again.
Thank you, my pleasure always.
And thank you for watching. I'm Angela Ajetomobi.